I love you. I'm just going to give you a hug.
Happy birthday, hug. Birthday.
Okay. And anybody else who wants to come up? Sir, what's your name?
I'm Emmanuel. I'm good friends of your cousin Pam.
Emmanuel is friends with my cousin Pam, who sat there for the whole 25 hours. Wow. 25 hours. Pam, why don't you sit behind me now? Why are you sitting so far away? Now you're suddenly shy? Dr. Pamela Bailey, he's an emergency room doctor.
Yeah.
And who's the young man? The young man. Introduce him.
Moises.
Give it up for Moises. Wife Sarah, thank you, Sarah, for being here.
We both work at the State Department.
You work at the State Department. Thank you for being out here today.
Right, thank you for your service.
Okay, now we can get back to our teaching.
So, the way they try to take our power is they start with a pen. And on January 20th, the pen started writing that we didn't have the right to citizenship even if we were born here. That we didn't have the right to learn our history if it said race, if it said diversity, that government should not function if we care about inclusion. These were all executive orders. I won't even go through all of them because there were too many to go through. Because chaos is not a cause. But chaos had a cause. And it started with these executive orders. But the lawsuits started immediately. This is what you have to understand, and I think people know. The lawsuits started immediately because our first tool in the toolbox, in addition to our voice, is our ability to have lawyers who go to court and say, this is unconstitutional. And actually, Mr. President, you don't have the power of the pen, Congress does. Because the founders gave the pen to these people. These people. The only reason these people have the pen is because we gave it to them as the people. So that litigation started winning, by the way. We won. There have been lawsuits that have won temporary orders. Temporary, they're ongoing. From Trump appointees. This is the other thing. It is not about a court system that has an ideology when we have the right judges on the bench. Another thing we fight for is making sure we have the right judges on the bench. The right judges aren't about what party they're affiliated with. The right judges are about whether their positions are principled on the law and on the facts. And so we have had Trump-appointed judges saying, oh, you can't do that. But we've had that because we've had lawyers that went into court. So then what happens? There are executive orders attacking lawyers for even representing clients and going to court and saying, we'll use our pen to say, oh, Perkins Coie and others, you can't go in these buildings, which means you can't represent your clients, which means we're telling your clients not to hire you as law firms. By the way, these are private businesses.
Yes.
Last I heard, the Republican Party actually liked free market system and the private sector. We're talking about the private sector. We're also talking about public attorneys eventually, because we'll get to the not-for-profit attacks. But the point is, once you see the power of the ability to have rights and to have legal representation, we see an administration attack it. And then we see some law firms capitulate. But then we see some other law firms that stand up and go to court and say, it is unlawful for you to tell us that we can't represent our clients, to block us from public buildings, to represent our clients who have a legal right to be represented and a right to choose us. So they are litigating now in courts. But then let's go back to what we're seeing that Hakeem, you just called out. We are seeing people with rights, like Gilmar Abrego Garcia, who was protected with an order from the United States government that he could not be sent back to El Salvador because his life would be endangered. And this case, let's be clear, is not just about Gilmar. It's about the fact that even when the government said, oh, we were wrong, that was an error. Oops. Literally, oops. And no, we won't go back and ask a dictator to return a person we should have never sent. And we know about all the other people, young men, Venezuelan, sent to El Salvador. First of all, Venezuelan, sent sent to El Salvador. That is not normal, people. Sent to El Salvador intentionally because it is a rights-abusing prison. And so we are seeing our American Civil Liberties Union as a member organization litigating to say, no, you can't. And many of these cases, there are restraining orders being entered against the government, and this administration saying, what order? What order? Again, not normal. Not normal that this Supreme Court, which many of us would call a captured court, a court that has sadly lost a lot of public trust for ignoring its own case precedents. Even this court said, wait, no, we don't think you are abiding sufficiently to protect the rights of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So the courts, so this is the next line of attack, and we're seeing this moving now, is taking power away from the courts to be able to issue those orders that say, yeah, no, you can't do this. That if it's a nationwide injunction, that just means that a judge can say, you're going to hurt people everywhere. We think you don't have the right to do this. We are going to say you have to stop until we finish this litigation. We don't know how it's going to come out, but we think there's a strong enough case. There's enough likelihood you're going to hurt people all over the country that we're going to say you have to hold on that. That's all that means. And yet now we have elected officials trying to take the power from the courts to protect us from the harm of an administration that thinks chaos is a cause.
Explain that, what's going on.
Yeah, and well, I think to go back to the foundational point, which then leads us to this moment, is that, this in many ways, what we are navigating through right now was the worst nightmare of the framers of the Constitution. We've talked about the fact they were not perfect. They certainly had flaws, but they tried to set us on a march toward a more perfect union. And at that Constitutional Convention that took place in Philadelphia, 1787, historians have assessed that the word that was used the most during the Constitutional Convention certainly wasn't what I may have thought that word would be. My first guess probably would have been democracy. Now, democracy was in heavy rotation. That's my music terminology. It was in heavy rotation, but it wasn't the word that was used the most. Probably would have said, well, what about liberty? It's also used frequently, but it wasn't the word that was used the most by the assessment of historians. Third guess, I probably would have said freedom. Also in heavy rotation, but was not the word that was used the most. The word that was used the most during the Constitutional Convention, when the framers were trying to construct this republic that we've now inherited, was demagogue.
Wow.
It was demagogue. Think about it. They were trying to break free from a world where kings dominated.
Wow.
And so they were trying to construct a system that would be resilient enough to prevent the emergence of a singular figure like a king. And that was the whole premise behind separate and co-equal branches of government. It's interesting because Alexander Hamilton apparently used the word the most, by some calculations, 13 or 14 different times during the Constitutional Convention. And he said his greatest fear for the future of this country that was being built was that one day a demagogue might get elected and over a 4-year period of time try to turn into a tyrant. It was the framers' worst fear and nightmare. And now we're confronting someone who's acting like a king as opposed to trying to govern like the president. But the thing is, we were given the tools to push back against it. That was the whole premise of separate and co-equal branches of government, which is why here in the Congress, as we sit here getting ready to enter into weeks of debate around this reckless, dangerous, un-American budget that they're trying to jam down our throats, is that we don't work for a president. We don't have a monarch. We don't have a dictator. In America, we have a democracy. The people of the House and the Senate who serve in the House and the Senate need to recognize that we work for the American people. And we've got to serve the interests of the American people. That's the system that we inherited. And that's also why you've got judges who were given lifetime appointments so that they would be free of the political pressure that might otherwise accompany someone trying to act like a king who has the power to appoint but to get rid of a judge, or, as in some instances, having a judge that has to seek re-election. That doesn't exist in our system, and that's why we've seen some of the resilience, I think, at this moment.
What are they doing in the House about this impeaching of judges? Can you mention that for a second?
Well, I think they've tried to move legislation to reduce the power of judges to be able to make the independent decisions that they are making right now, or the reach of those decisions, precisely because lawyers like Maya and others have had such success. We talked about this earlier. At this point, more than 200 different lawsuits have been filed. There's been a flood, the zone approach, right, with all of this unconstitutional and unlawful action and executive orders, but that's been met with a flood, an avalanche of righteous litigation. And the American people are winning in court, not losing. And because the American people are winning, Republicans in the House are trying to now change the rules, strip judges of jurisdiction. But let's be clear, we are not going to let it happen.
So that is so phenomenal. So let me add here, and this is why Maya's incredible presence here is such an important reminder that there are areas we have to fight. So the first thing is, you said immediately when he started pushing illegal executive orders, you all tied them up in court. And this is the amazing thing. Trump appointed judges. Obama appointed judges. Bush appointed judges. All across the board, you're seeing the judges step up and stop them, right? That's correct. These cases, and sometimes it's injunctions, but sometimes we're winning. Even the Supreme Court, which is 3 people on that court he put in place, have come out and have been stopping him from doing some of the things. The other arena is what you and I have to do. It is legislative, procedural, in every way possible. It's one of the reasons why I stood for 25 hours to say, what can I do to do things in this body with the levers we have, even though we're in the minority, in the levers we have. But the other arena we have to fight for is what you have said over and over again, is the power of the public. Because the power of the people in a democracy is greater than the people in power. And it is what our founders got right when they broke with the formation of governments all throughout history. This is not going to be because we all pray the same. We're not a theocracy. It's not going to be divine right of kings and queens because people are being this idea that we surrender our rights to a monarchy. It's not even going to be the power of the sword where people, through military strength, oppress the people, autocracies. We are going to form a democracy. And the debates at the time, powerfully written in the Federalist Papers, the arguments were that we were not going to concentrate power in any individual, but we were going to have 3 branches of co-equal branches of government. And what you see from President Trump so far is his willingness to immediately try to attack the powers of the other 2 branches. One, by saying, I'm going to move through the complicity of other Republicans in the House and do things that are not going to be questioned. Your job as Article I branch of the government, Congress, is to provide oversight. There's going to be no hearings. Do not have a hearing about Elon Musk scraping data from people's personal data, their social security data, their tax data. Not one hearing about this unelected billionaire that's causing all this havoc. When we have scandals like Signalgate, not one hearing about whether this is the pattern and practice, which we're finding out that Hegseth is doing. We're going to eviscerate the power of the Article 1 branch to provide a check. And then, God forbid, if Article 3 branch is going to try to check my power, now I'm going to start threatening judges. Now I'm going to start saying things on my platforms that literally have had threats on judges increase over 100%. Literally, there's a judge in New Jersey who years ago, Judge Solis, years ago, she had someone come to her house trying to murder her and instead murders her son and shoots and wounds her husband. Her son's name was Daniel Anderall. And then what he does, what's happening now through this whipping up of hate against people, judges, Republican-appointed judges, who are standing against the Trump administration, what's happening to now is now they are getting threatened as well. Literally, they're getting pizza sent to their private homes in the name of the murdered son of Judge Solis, that Daniel Anderall just sent you a pizza to show, as if to threaten them, we know where you live. And so we're creating a context where democracies erode is when our norms and traditions begin to reduce and threats of violence rise. I've seen what they've done to some of my Senate colleagues, Republican colleagues, who had dared to even question, should we be confirming Hegseth, the most unqualified Secretary of Defense? Just by mentioning or questioning it, you're suddenly seeing them be dragged and threatened. And so what you see right now is the surrendering of power of checks and balances from the Article 1 branch of government. We are not doing an oversight authority. We're not holding hearings. We're not allowing a legislation that we've passed with the power of the pen, the power of the purse. That's being taken back by the executive with no accountability, no checks. And now they're attacking the Article 3 branch of government. This is a sign of autocracies, times of authoritarian leadership, not signs of democracies. This is the kind of things that are at stake right now. And the reason why we're asking people to come down here if you have the time, the day's gotten warm now, it's not as freezing as it was 6 o'clock in the morning when you and I were shaking trying to look tough. We're not shaking anymore. The sun is climbing to its apex. It's almost midday. We've been out here. We're in our 4th hour of sitting here. We're thankful for the joggers have come and sat with us. Just running through the plaza, they've decided to stop and stay. I'm so grateful for the runners making me feel guilty. Run home at the end of this, whatever time we stop. There are a lot of people out here on the plaza stopping. If you want to come down, come and join us in this conversation. Come and join us. We're grounding ourselves in who are we? That question, the moral underpinnings. I saw a man with a collar. Hello, sir. Father, how are you? Pastor, it's good to see you. What's your name? Rev, then come sit behind us, Rev. Rev, come on, sit behind us, because you're going to bring us back to the faith traditions. We're talking about the moral underpinnings of this country. The founders were all about public virtue. They pulled from the great philosophers of the day about what it takes to build a good society. That's what's under assault. But the biggest immediacy that's under assault, that we want people who are watching this and streaming to go into the DMs, sneak up into Hakeem's DMs, sneak up. It's okay today to sneak. It's for religious purposes only. Sneak up into Hakeem's DMs. Sneak up into my DMs if you'd like to, and tell us your story. Tell us what motivates you. What's urgency? What are you afraid of? I see these women with these beautiful babies. Thank you for being here. Come on up here and sit there. We need more cuteness with Hakeem and I here. We need more cuteness. Come on, sit right here in front of me. This is how politicians look good. Is put babies in the picture. But we want to hear from you today. We're going to sit here. We don't know how long we're going to sit here, but I imagine it's going to be as long as it's warm. The sun's going up, rising in the east, coming up above the Capitol. Come here. Hi. Hi. But this is about our democracy. But the most urgency thing, and I think the thing that, Hakeem, that you and I talked about why we're sitting here, is the urgency of a 2-week break. Congress has been out and about. They've been holding town halls. They've been traveling the world. They've been going to El Salvador. We've seen heroic actions by Congress people all around. But now they're coming back. And the Republican leadership of this side of the Capitol not the higher side. I think this is on an angle up there in the Senate, right? That's the higher side. What is the immediate threat?
Don't push me here. I'm from Brooklyn.
Close to the edge?
Oh, there you go. Yeah. That was Grandmaster Flash. He's actually from the Bronx. But I think we face this moment, as Cory indicated, where we will come back into session tomorrow, and we'll be faced with an existential struggle to defeat a Republican effort to try to jam a very reckless budget down the throats of the American people, which is totally inconsistent with the approach that many of them spent all last year talking about, which was that they were going to try to drive down the high cost of living in the United States of America. They promised to lower costs. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. And we believe we have to build an affordable economy. That's what we should be working on, right? To make life better for everyday Americans. But instead, we got a budget that's in front of us that is trying to enact the largest Medicaid cut in American history. It will hurt children, hurt families, hurt women, hurt seniors, hurt people with disabilities, close hospitals, close nursing homes. People will die if this budget is successful. That's how urgent the fight is. And we're going to stand on the side of the health care of the American people. And we need the American people to join us in this righteous struggle, because this budget is unacceptable, it's unconscionable, it's un-American, and we're going to do everything we need to bury it in the ground, never to rise again.
Yo, Brooklyn.
Brooklyn stole my Nets. I want them back in Newark.